Welcome everyone to another Mere Mortals episode. You have Kyrin here on this side of the world and just me today. Just me. Yes, Juan is not going to be here. So he is romping about in Sydney. So you've got me here on the 13th of July, 2024 on a Brazilian time. And today I'm going to be doing a solo episode. You know, we've done some of these in the past. I actually labeled some of these actual episodes. Nowadays, we were... when I say we, I make most of the decisions because I do the editing and stuff. And I've decided that we're only going to number the episodes, you know, a meanderings or musings, episode number whatever, if Juan is here as well. So it's just going to count as a half episode today because it's just going to be me. Nonetheless, I will still do the kind of rough format that we normally do. I've got I suppose just some reflections on, it's been about 2 months now since Mum's passed away, so I had some reflections on that. We'll be doing our Boostagrams to make up for the last week or 2 weeks, because Juan didn't do any last week. And then I wanted to talk about some travel plans and just probably like the biggest problem that is currently plaguing me in my life. So that's kind of the rough order for things today. So yeah, just starting off, I guess, with a reflection on Mum. So she passed away on May 8th, and that's almost 2 months. Obviously, with the big lead up to her finally passing away, it was not an unexpected event. So, you know, I've talked about this a little bit in the past of how it was a weird feeling of grief where it just wasn't as intense as I thought it would be. I just thought growing up, losing a parent, I imagined what it would be like as little thought experiments every now and then. What would it be like to lose mum or dad or my brother? And all I could think of was just how miserable I would be and how everything would change. But nothing really changed. If anything, it just made our lives a lot easier, which, is one of the conflicting things again of mortality, of people passing away, of grief is, sometimes it can feel good in some ways because, you're not having to watch your dad go to the hospital and, basically grinding himself to the ground. And you're not having to, have the mental just plague of going to visit her and knowing it's going to be an unpleasant experience because of just this uncontrollable anger she had and things like this. So it's a good book for this, which I actually kind of read in preparation for her passing away, was On Grief and Grieving by, I think it's Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and there was another guy's name. It's on the book reviews channel. And this was the book that came up with the 5 stages of grief, and which, the DABDA, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, where and how I went through that. I could try and pinpoint it out. It was just a rough framework. I'm not sure I ever went through certain stages, or if I did, they were shallow or whatever. But there was one thing that actually occurred, and Juan talked about, if you listen to the last episode, his goals, or not his goals, but just his monthly reflection, the big event for him for May. So these are what happened in, June. June was Mum's memorial service. It was right at the start of the month. 2nd of June, maybe it was. It was a pretty quick turnaround time from that to me coming back to Brazil. So yeah, around the 1st or the 2nd sounds about right. And obviously that was a big kind of day for me and preparing for that. If you actually want to see the memorial service, it was live streamed, so there it is on YouTube. I will include a link in the show notes for when this comes out, and I can maybe try and do this in the live chat now while I'm. Oh, actually, I can't. The live chat's not working, so I won't be able to do that. Don't worry about that. I'll post it for those who want to see it later, and you can check it out in the show notes. And so that quite a few people attended that. Juan was there as well. And one of the things that my dad had asked us in leading up to this was, well, one, He wanted myself, my brother, and himself to be wearing fancy pants together in kind of solidarity. Or he asked, and I said, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And for Mum's funeral, for memorial service, we had a theme of kind of bright clothes. And so if you check out the pants that I'm wearing in that video, they are easily the fanciest pair of pants that I now own. In any case, the other thing that he asked me was, do you want to do a speech? And I didn't want to, for two main reasons. One was I didn't think I would actually be able to get through it, and so it would kind of be pointless in a way, because it wouldn't be me reading it out, it would be someone else reading it out. And dad kind of accepted that and agreed with that, because for my grandmother's, his mother, he tried to give a speech and he said he just couldn't get through it, and that was kind of that. The other reason is, I just don't really like giving speeches. That would be the second reason. The third reason was I thought I didn't know how I'd be able to explain my relationship to her, and especially what I would want to say, because so much of what was just going through my mind was the last 9 months, which were just very, very hard. And I try to think back of, what was Mum like when I was 10 years old? What was Mum like when I was 20 years old? What was she like, when I was 25 years old? And I was just having a real tough time trying to envision her, envision myself, what I felt about her at the time, interactions that we would have, and things like that. So that was the other reason I didn't particularly want to give a speech. What I realized, though, basically right towards the end of the memorial service, probably 3/4 of the way through, was, you know what? I kind of wish I had given one, because I think seeing all the videos and the photos of her and other people talking about her made me go, I wish I could kind of tie all of these things up, because my dad's speech, which was I thought was an amazing speech, was very much about his relationship with her and kind of her quirks and personality and how they worked together as a couple. Whereas I think I would have been able to give a slightly different perspective of her as a whole, almost, because she's been there from the very beginning for me, and that's that was a huge part of her life. So I've written up some notes here, and I'll try and just go through them and pretend, if you will, for me, my dear mere mortalites at home, that you're in the crowd, and this is what I would have been going up to try to give. So I probably would have started off by acknowledging that selfishly her life really started when mine began. And when I see videos of myself and photos of a child of myself, it kind of feels like watching a movie, because I can't remember them from the inside. I really, really do struggle with these memories, and especially memories before kind of 13 years old, even the earliest parts of high school. They just feel like snippets. They're just going away so quickly. And I would have said this even 5 years, maybe even 10 years ago, that portion of my life was, those memories are hard and they fade, but I did still have a couple that I wanted to pass on, to share with everyone. So, Mum was always my home base. I felt I could always just be myself around her and be comfortable, no matter what other problems I had in my life, and especially in those years of puberty from 13 to 20, let's say, the school anxiety, the future, nervousness, social anxiety, all of those sorts of things. When I was just around her, I wouldn't feel them, or at least I'd be distracted from them. There wasn't times when I'd be with her and I'd be thinking about them, or if I did, I can't even remember that. And all would dissipate behind her care. And I do literally mean behind her, because one of my earliest memories is actually grabbing the back of her legs and peeping out when all of these loud and strange women would suddenly appear at our house. And so the context for this is mum was in a barbershop choir, and so she was always having just these loud women coming and singing at our house. And, you know, she loved to have guests over, and they would just always be showing up. There's just women always showing up in our doors. I remember that. And, you know, I was a shy kid. I was a very cute kid. And I would hide behind her because all they wanted to do was come and pinch my cheeks and praise me. I had curly blonde hair then, and the curse of being incredibly cute with these long dark eyelashes, and I still kind of have them to these days. The curse does continue to this day, and I'm sure many of those same women were in the audience. So I was going to say, like, I'll be doing signatures and taking photos afterwards. So if you want to come again, feel free to do so. But I do remember that. I do remember just being so like awkward and shy and having to literally hide behind mum. She was always positive and happy. And even when she did complain, there would be a kind of a lightheartedness to it. I can't ever really remember her raising her voice or getting angry at Prentice, or Prentice being my brother. No matter how much we, aka Prentice, teased her for drinking tea in the gym. True story. She used to drink tea in the gym, and we would just tease her mercilessly because that's what we thought she did there. Or having a Kiwi accent that she still thought she had, but definitely didn't. No way. 20 years of Australia erased that. But she never actually did tell us off in a mean or bullying way. One of my favorite stories of mum was it was kind of a strictness through kindness. And so whilst working as, I believe it was a fill-in deputy or assistant deputy at the high school, she had this naughty boy who came to her, and apparently he'd punched a classmate or something like that. And when she asked why he did it, he looked at her, and I believe he was an Islander boy, and he said, like, Miss Lansdowne, snitches get stitches. And apparently she couldn't stop laughing and just going crazy and like, trying to be strict and saying to this boy, like, you shouldn't be punching your classmates whilst secretly, laughing her ass off at the boy, and snitches get stitches, and that's been like a recurring joke just in our family for a long time. Bonding, I suppose, can sometimes be hard if you have different interests. I was always the nerdy math guy who liked playing soccer, and mum was the artsy music girl who liked singing. So there wasn't really an overlap much between our interests. But the one thing we both enjoyed was staying up late and being lazy. And I used to think back and look and go, man, I wasted a lot of time on TV shows. Just so much time of Dr. House, of NCIS, of The Simpsons. Although, I look at The Simpsons now especially, and so much of my humor is derived from that. So I think that was well spent. But so much time just spent watching TV shows. And what I actually realized was a lot of that was actually spent with her. And, it was just the two of us sitting on the couch, me cuddled up to her. And I think through this, we actually realized we had a lot in common. So, for example, we used to stay up into the early AM watching, what do you think? The Tour de France. Cycling. If you know me at all, I give cyclists so much shit. I think they're a plague on the road. But yet we would spend, 5 hours a night watching the Tour de France. And I'm talking from, 11 p.m. until 4 a.m. sort of deal, almost. Depends on the day and if there were school holidays or not. And neither of us, I don't think, actually really enjoyed the bike riding, but what we loved was seeing the landscapes, the chateaus, the castles, the French Pyrenees, the sights, the views, and also just the people watching, the people on the sides of the roads going crazy, how they're dressed up as fans and things like this. We both found it fascinating. I'm watching the Tour de France highlights right at this moment. And it really does take me back and just give me those vibes again of remembering of being there and sitting with mum and loving just being there with her. That truly was some. It's so funny. It's like you'd think it's the mundane, wasted moments. You're wasting time just watching TV, but when I look back now, I really do treasure those moments, because there were times where we could just bond. We just had hours and hours of just bonding and talking, and sometimes not talking and just watching the TV, and that was beautiful. I really enjoyed that. On the opposite side of being lazy and gentle, she also knew how to work hard and was loud. So if you thought her friends were loud coming over, she was the loudest of all. All the accolades and medals she received over the years were not a fluke. And Mum's middle nickname at the casino was Susan Medals Lansdowne. Medals. And what she was constantly doing was refining her skills, despite the amount of schoolwork that would pile up at home, despite having to feed almost 3 or 4 different people, because Dad was vegetarian, I was picky and didn't like vegetables. Prentice, I think he was pretty good, and then he became picky. And then Mum, just whatever she wanted. So she would be cooking at the very least 2 different meals a week, taking us to soccer practice, to soccer games, to school rehearsal things, to tennis training, to our friends' places. She did a lot for us, and despite that, she would find the time to just sing constantly, because she was the director of the choir. It was up to her to be, basically the best out of everyone to make sure they were on track. And I remember there was this one song that has just been burned into my mind and into my family's mind, which was called Grapefruit Diet. It's actually a Weird Al Yankovic parody of, I can't remember what it was a parody of. But it's a Weird Al song. So if you go online and type in something like that, you'll find it. And for Mum, I remember her saying it was a particularly tricky song, and she wanted to make sure she got it right. So this might be slightly distorted by kids' memories of making terrible moments feel like their ages. But I swear that she sang for 8 hours that day this one song over and over and over again. And it really was torture, because she was singing it as high as she could go. And, grapefruit diet. and it's not just me. My brother Prentice and Dad also remember this as well. She was just hammering out this song. So not only was she gentle and kind, but she was hardworking as well. She really worked hard. And when Mum was officially diagnosed in late 2016, she faced it bravely and moved on quickly. I never felt she was one to dwell on things that could not be changed. Alzheimer's it's a cruel disease that really slowly chips away at a lot of things. Mum was still able to do a lot of things she loved, but it also obviously required more effort and transportation, of special attention, of making sure someone was there to help her when she needed help. And this is where I would have thanked everyone at the time, but I can still thank it if they ever see this. All those people who helped out, I can't thank of everyone, but thank you for making that happen, of taking her to choir, to taking her out for walks, for training her at the gym, for being her shepherd and her guide, her car driver, her lift. All of those sorts of things made a big difference. And the last 7 years, and in particular the last 8 to 9 months, were very, very hard. And Prentice and Dad, my brother and Dad, spent a lot of time caring for her, and this allowed me to personally do things like travel the world, for Latin America for how long was that, 14 months in 2018, 2019, to move out of home during COVID, to spending a lot of time on the podcast, on all sorts of different things, and allowing me to live my life. And I have nothing but admiration and appreciation for them, especially my dad. That last 8 months, he was in the hospital, like every day with her. He was caring for her every day. And amazing. Anyway, I'd like to end on a positive note about all this. How special it was that everyone came to say goodbye, and that we could all, get the chance to remember her. I would love to hear favorite memories of everyone. So, for this is for what I would have said at the time. And not everything in life can be positive, but continue on despite this with a smile is what Mum would have done. And, I want to be like her. So she was a special lady. She was really special. Whew. So yeah, that was that was what I would have wanted to say. I think I'm never the best for speeches. It's not my natural talent, but I think that would have tied in really well with you can tell me if you ever do go watch her memorial service. You can tie that in and compare that. So yeah, thank you Peter. So yeah, we'll leave that at there for today. Do I have any additional thoughts? Not really. Sometimes I have dreams where she was her old self, which I wake up and it makes me happy and sad at the same time. Sad that she's not here, but happy that I got to experience those moments with her and who she was. And Peter said he wasn't planning on crying today. I actually was planning, but I think I managed to get through it okay. So, but yeah, no, that was good. I'm sure I wouldn't have got through that on the day though. That would have been too hard, way too hard. I after the memorial service, the day after, my jaw hurt so much, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I was just clenching it so hard just during all the memorial service, and probably a bit afterwards, just to, I guess, not cry the entire time, but yeah, that was that. Any additional thoughts? Not really. I think life goes on. I think the pain for me is already subsiding a bit, which is nice, and it's not pain in the sense of, I think the pain would have been much different if it had been a very quick way to go, a quick unexpected. That would be a lot harder. I had time to prepare myself, so that, even though you can never prepare yourself, I kind of could a little bit, so that was okay. All right, let's jump onto some more fun things, and we'll just go to the live chat here. I see, so we did have Lucas, Peter, Patricia, and Dimilix in the chat as well. Thank you everyone for joining. And yeah, Peter was the one saying he wasn't planning on crying today, but things change. I want to jump onto the Boostagrams because it's been 2 weeks and the value for value section of this podcast. So I'm just going to go over here and explain what that is. So this is a value for value podcast. You will not hear any ads or chips on this podcast ever. And this is because both Juan and I agree that we want to keep this as free and open as possible without any ulterior purposes. And honestly, I think the actual experience of getting interrupted by ads is just so jarring. It makes me hate a show that I love, that I used to love or did love when I hear them, especially if they're in the middle and are designed to just like be uncomfortable and get at you. I don't think there will ever be a time particularly where actually I'll take this back, because I noticed my views are getting more kind of strident and a little bit hardened in certain things. So perhaps one day I will be on the what would you call it? The controversial side of a topic. I usually am pretty down the middle, straight, even keel, and especially because I avoid things like politics, sex, religion, which tends to get people angry and mad. But maybe one day I would be, and I never would want those opinions tainted because a sponsor or because a advertiser did not want me to say or wanted me to say certain things. So this is why we do value for value, where we provide this value all up front for you, and we just ask that you return it in kind. You can do this in multiple different ways, and I'll explain more of that at the end. But this is the Boostagram section, where we shout out the people who have helped support us monetarily. And you can do this if you want to know. Go to meremodelspodcast.com/support. So I'm trying to find this first one here, and I believe it's this one here. Petar, the Slav, coming in with 2,222, and he's doing this over 2 different boosts, so that's 4,444 in total. And he says, all caps, red flag. You got off lucky, man. She showed you her crazy up front. Yeah, boy. Absolutely, she did. I got lucky. That's probably the closest I've come to interacting with a genuine crazy person that I know of. I'm sure I've interacted with other people who have done crazy things, but I've never been in the crossfire at all. That's like the closest I've come to getting hit by some of the, or perhaps even the full frontal assault of crazy. So if 2 hours wasted and like 20 bucks of Uber rides wasted, that's a fine price to pay for avoiding that over the years. And then the other one, finally, Juan's July goals 100% match my goals, and he feels personally attacked by that chapter art, which is what I used. And basically, I just had Juan's little message at the top of I'm just going to relax and chill out, and then a Venice.ai image prompt of a fat, lazy Colombian lying on a couch. Whoops. Sorry, Peter. Yeah, it is kind of unfair that I control the chapter art, because I'm going to make those things for him, but I'm definitely not going to make my ones look like that. Geez. We had McIntosh coming in here on Happy America Day, July 4th, and he says, great conversation, gents, 1111. And he sent that using Podcast Guru. Peter, I believe, was using Fountain. Yep. Peter, speaking of, comes in again. I believe in you, Juan. You accomplish more by doing less. Let's fucking go! Fire emoji. 2,222. Thank you very much, Peter. It's coming in hot with the boosts these last couple of weeks, and of course I'm reading out 2 weeks worth, so there's more here than usual. A name we have seen before, but it's been a while. Oystein Berge. Sounds like you guys have a lot on your minds. Crazy thought. Why not try some magic mushrooms? I know it sounds terrifying, but it will help you get out of negative thought patterns. Just throwing it out there. 3,333. Sent using Podverse as well. I'm liking all these different podcast applications showing up. Magic mushrooms. I have experimented with them before. I've always stayed on a very low dose, either being a microdose or one time where I would say it was maybe a normalish dose, but never into the superhero category of what's that, like 5 grams of 3 to 5 grams, nothing like that. I've always kept it very, very small. My kind of position with psychedelics and mind altering things is, and even just drugs in general, to be honest. So I'm thinking things like MDMA, cocaine, and things that are like, and then you can go down the list into caffeine and stuff like that. I'm cautious. Me personally, I'm very cautious. I'm not diving into anything. I tend to prefer stuff which has not been alterated or is chemically made, and therefore has the more of a potential for substance abuse, I guess, for addictive type ones, but especially things like cocaine, but more I'm thinking more of the actual substance itself. An MDMA pill in Australia, I have no idea what's in that. I'm sure there is mostly, I don't know, I'm sure there's a lot of ecstasy in there, but I am also sure that there's some other things in there which I would rather not have in my system. And there's plenty of articles out there of people taking stuff that has been altered, and I'm trying to think of the word. It's like mixed or tainted or something like that, or cut. And yeah, I'm just cautious with all these things. I've known personally one person who had a complete psychotic break from taking something, a mysterious pill mixed with other substances, and I'm appreciative of those things. It sounds like we have a lot on our minds. This is true, but you can solve a lot without without having to go there as well. For example, I do not need to try ayahuasca. There's nothing about that calls to me, that says to me I need to try that. Maybe in the future that could change, but I got to say at the moment something like that does not sound appealing. So that's just my general random thoughts there of drugs. If you wanted to know more the political side of things, I think, or the legality side of things, or the ethical side of things, I definitely think you should have the ability to take them wherever you want, however you want, as long as you are not hurting other people. From what I can tell, the Portuguese method of decriminalizing, even legalizing many things, but having to access it through certain venues where I believe you can get heroin there if you want, but you have to take it in a certain place, and you have to be surrounded by some sort of medical professional as well. It's kind of cutting down on personal liberties, but then again, if you've got heroin and meth addicts on the street assaulting people, then that's also cutting into other people's liberties. So there's a fine balance there between those. Jumping on to Peter's message here: be consistent, be flexible. It might seem like a contradiction at first glance, but if you really think on it, these are two philosophies. These two philosophies can be totally complementary without any trade-off. Another 2,222 sent using Fountain. So that would have been in response to what Juan was thinking for his just on his May recap, or sorry, his June recap. And be consistent, be flexible. Yeah, I think those two certainly. I mean, for me, the first thing that comes to mind was I was insanely consistent at being flexible, i.e. there was a period I spent 3 hours basically every morning just stretching and just getting really flexible. So that's definitely one prime example right there. But yeah, I think it's worth thinking about these things, which can seem contradictory but actually merge together if you do them in a particular way. I do like thinking about that. And then the final message we have here, which we received yesterday, Cole McCormick. 1. In 2017, I would do midnight runs around my neighborhood, 4.8 kilometers, and really push myself. I'm trying to think where he was in 2017, because if he was in LA doing that, damn, man. I mean, I'm sure there's good parts of LA, and I'm going to see Cole, but I guess maybe I'll get to see 4.8 kilometers and really push myself. Was working through a depression and would need to feel like my chest was on fire to feel adequate to whatever mystery standard I set for myself. Now I meditate and walk. I like that call. 2,222. Thank you very much, my friend. Sent using Fountain as well. That's an interesting story right there, because that's one of those times where it's helpful. It's certainly more helpful than staying at home and being depressed and falling into unhealthy habits. So getting out and running, having the need to feel like your chest was on fire, that's probably where it's getting to, like, is this? And I talk about this kind of constantly, because I went through a phase similar to this myself, where I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I felt the need to push things as hard as I could go. And there was no real reason for it, and this is where I'm talking about running a marathon in a 4-hour pace, of trying to set all of these eating goals, doing a 5-day fast, going to an isolated place for 6 days or 8 nights in total, and meditating 8 hours a day and only reading. And that was it. Now, all I would do was meditate, read, and sleep. Nothing else was allowed. And eat, I guess. And I look at all of that now, and you could look at a lot of those things and say that was healthy. And I look back at it now, I'm like, it wasn't unhealthy, but I'm not sure it was helpful in what I was doing. But man, one would so be. I mean, midnight run. I'm not sure if he'd been down for that or not, because for him, you know what he'd be down for? He would go for a 3 a.m. run and say, "Oh, I'm doing a midnight run." But it's him waking up at 3 a.m., not him running at staying up until midnight and doing it. So that's the one version of skirting around the things like that. But this I guess gets us onto our next topic. And mushrooms are basically legal in Canada, FYI. Ooh, interesting. And yeah, I actually am meeting with a guy, David, I'm getting ahead of myself. Travel plans. There's what I want to talk about for this next portion here, and then I'll finalize with just like the one thing that is actually influencing some of my travel plans. So the travel plans for my immediate future. I've finally locked in some dates for stuff. So basically, I'm going to stay in here in Brazil for another week and a half. That will last me until the 24th of July. I'll be flying from Londrina here through to Nashville. And I will arrive in Nashville on the Thursday, 25th of July, which is the first day of the Bitcoin conference. Yes, first day of the Bitcoin conference. And also when there are the podcast or Bands and Bitcoins meetups. I don't think there's official podcasting meetup there per se. Maybe I think it'll more likely just get merged into like a V for V type thing with the V for V musicians who are going to be there. My main tickets are to see McIntosh, who has helped donate into the show plenty of times, podcaster Satoshi's Plebs, if you want to check his out. I definitely am going to meet up with Dave Jones, and we're actually just going to be staying together. I want to meet Ainsley Costello. I want to meet the Dorfals. I want to meet Booberry. I basically want to meet anyone who is involved with V4V. The Bitcoin conference itself doesn't particularly interest me. I know some people going to it, like McIntosh, for example, I believe is going to the actual conference. And there's a couple of people from Brisbane, the Bitcoin group there, who I'm sure are going. I'm more interested in maybe meeting up with them afterwards for some drinks or something, but the actual conference itself doesn't sound too appealing to me. So that potentially might give me a little bit of time during the day in Nashville. I might wander around. I probably won't do any workouts or anything, but yeah, I'm not sure. But you know, whilst I'm in Nashville, I might as well get a bit of country music in me, and I'm sure the Dorfals will help me out with that, either with some recommendations or some places they can take me to or things like that. So I'll be in Nashville for 3 days. On Saturday, I'm going to do a car ride trip with Dave Jones down to Birmingham, which is just 2 hours south in Alabama. So I'm going to go down there. Saturday night, I have not any plans at the moment. If I can get a stay a night in Dave's spare room, that would be amazing. I would love that. If not, I will just find a accommodation for the night somewhere in the city. And then on Sunday, I fly into Los Angeles. So in Los Angeles, I'm going to be staying with my friend David, aka from the Handstand Retreat, David the Australian, who's living in LA, and he's living on Venice Beach. He runs a hostel there called Stay Open, or is it Open Stay? I think it's Stay Open. And basically his routine is very similar to mine, except he's even crazier. He gets up early and he does a whole bunch of workouts in the morning, but it sounds like from that kind of after 1 p.m., 2 p.m. period, he goes to the Muscle Beach and does handstands, does muscle ups, does calisthenics, and boy, I am keen for that. So I'm going to stay with him for a week in his kind of hostel, and basically fingers crossed with good weather, but I plan to get jacked and become like Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, but I do plan on doing a bunch of calisthenics with him and just hanging out. And the stories he has of Los Angeles and that area are so absurd that I need to see this for myself to see if this is real life of what he is actually talking about. So that will be from I think that's like the 28th through to the 4th. I've then got a couple of days free where David and I are tentatively thinking about going to Las Vegas. So that would be like from Monday to Thursday. And I would love to do that with him, mostly because there's a whole bunch of handstand acts there, some of the best in the world. Andrei Bondarenko, and Pavel Stankovic, Andrei's wife. There's just legit people doing crazy stuff and I would love to go and see those shows. What else Las Vegas has to offer, I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. But for me, this trip is all really about just meeting up with people and spending time with them. And if I get the chance to do anything cool, exciting, weird, unusual, I'll take that. But I'm not going there to go to Yellowstone National Park, for example. I'm not there to go to hostels and experience the Las Vegas nightlife or anything like that. So that's pretty much my intentions. I was talking about David because he actually mentioned that I think you can get mushrooms in Los Angeles as well, or I don't know if it's legal, but you're able to acquire them is what I've been told. And if you want to see him, actually, he's in the videos that Lucas has been posting on his YouTube channel, Lucas H. Branco. And I think if you type in like Miguel Santana handstand retreat or Brazil handstand retreat, you'll likely find that on there. After that, so that'll take me through until about the August 9th, which I believe is a Friday. And then I'm going to be meeting up with Cole McCormick of fame from America Plus podcast, also a very constant booster into the show. And he lives in Los Angeles. He lives in North Hollywood, I believe. I'm planning on probably just getting an Airbnb somewhere around him for Friday, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday evening, something like that. I'm not going to be spending much time there because him and I are going to go to VCon together. So we're just going to go there. I really just honestly, it's an excuse to spend a lot of time with him. I know he's interested in going to it. I'm mildly interested. I don't know. Confidence, full day things. Like when Juan came back from his one that he went to, I thought it sounded intense, and I'm not sure something that I would really enjoy. But when I'm with Cole, he's high energy, so I'll be able to steal some of his energy, I think, and this could potentially work out really well. So yeah, I'm essentially just planning on spending 3 days with him over that VCon period. And then I have booked a ticket just before this, about an hour and a half ago, to go meet Petar as well. So we're really going full circle with all this value for value. This is, Juan and I talked, if someone got to 1 million sats, we wanted to do something special. And we were saying, he suggested shoes or something like that. And I was saying like, I'm not too keen on like more merch. I'd rather do something more personal. And I mean, like, honestly, at this moment, it seems that I'm personally going to meet Dave and Petar, our two boosters who have gotten above 1 million. So maybe that will stick in the future as well. Especially when a million sats now is, that's $1,000, I think. So yeah, that's essentially just paying for my flight to wherever you are in the world if you do that. So yeah, for sure, that's going to be really fun. And I have not booked anything other than that in terms of plans for what'll happen. I'll probably stay in Canada for 5 days. I'm not too sure at the moment. We'll figure that out. There is also potentially a decentralized AI day at the very same time during that period in Toronto, which was actually gave me the idea in the first place to go. And then I'm like, oh shit, Peter's there as well. And then I went, oh shit, I don't really care if the decentralized AI isn't even on. I want to go and see Petar. So that's my plans. I will fly back to Brazil. I'm going to stay in Brazil until probably around the 20th of September. Then I will be booking a flight to New Zealand. I'm going to probably spend about a week there with my dad and my brother. And that is in preparation for spreading Mum's ashes in a memorial park very close to where she grew up. And we'll be doing that with the rest of her New Zealand family. And then I'm going to be back in Australia. So I'll probably be back in Australia about October, which sounds, that's 2.5 months away. It's a decent amount of time, and it's also going to go very quick. This, I guess, gets me onto future plans and my biggest problem at the moment. The only thing that has really been on my mind is just feeling a bit lonely, to be honest. It's the not lonely in the sense of friends. I've got an amazing friend group. Not lonely in the sense of family. I'm very close with my brother and dad, and I had some recent experiences with my cousins, which was also like, it was nice. I actually really enjoyed hanging out with them, and kind of wish I knew them a bit better, to be honest. So when I go to New Zealand, we'll probably get the chance to do that. Because I knew them as kids, we'd see them once every 2 years, roughly, I'd say on average. But that's just not a lot of time to become very close with your cousins. No, the loneliness feeling is just for with a partner, man. Just the physical touch of being with someone who I guess gets you and loves you in that in the romantic sense. And honestly, that is the only thing that really is on my mind, in the sense of something I wish I could solve. And the the dilemma, I guess, is how I go about solving it. And you've heard me talk about this multiple times on the podcast, and I still have not come to a conclusion. I think for what I kind of envision and for what I would like my life to look like, the people that I know who have had kids recently, who are in long-term relationships, as much as I love Latin America, as much as I mean, like, honestly, I love all sorts of cultures. There's Latin America certainly is a big portion, because I've spent so much time here. But when I imagine, like, we're getting finding a girl here, for example, I thought it was maybe a possibility before I came, because I'm like, I'm going to be here a fair amount of time, at least 3 months. It's more than enough time to find someone. I can meet them multiple times. I'm going to come back to Brazil, for example, so I'll end up spending more than 90 days here in total. It'll probably be closer to like 120. And initially I first thought, before I came, I could potentially do what happened last time. I met an amazing girl, Andrea, a Colombian girl. This was in Argentina, and we got on amazing. And with her, I saw that we could have a life together because a lot of our things matched. She was already living outside of her own country. She spoke English really well, fluently. She got me, I got her. We complemented each other in many different ways, and it kind of made sense to me, where I was like, I think this could work. I think this could work long term. And it didn't pan out, and that's for other reasons, kind of outside. I want to say outside of both of our control, but when I look at, like, how would it have worked on the logistical basis, for example, let's say for me, I was very strident, and I still am, that I want to live in Australia. It's an amazing place, and nowhere else in the world has called to me as being like, this. I need to move here. This is better. This is a better place than Australia. And when I look at logistically, say she had moved there, I mean, first there's the whole visa process. If that hadn't destroyed the relationship and we got through that, and then we have a kid, and then it would have been me, her, and then my dad, my brother, and close friends. And dad would have been spending a lot of time having to look after mum. He wouldn't have been able to help out so much. I just go, like, it's pretty damn important having a social circle built in for that individual who I want to spend time with as well. Like, but me knowing me, like, I need my own personal space as well. I'm not a let's do everything together sort of guy. I need to be able to go off into my own little zone and do my own little things for at least an hour or two a day, I think. And that's why, I think with Andrea it could have worked, because she also needed her space and time and didn't want to be together all the time. But it would have gotten on her, I'm sure, being in Australia, and it's like, unless she integrated really well, she wouldn't have had a friend group. She wouldn't have had family here. She would have been starting off from scratch. And this is, saying as if I was in Australia right now. So all in all, this is just making me think more and more like, okay, I think, scratch that off the list. I wouldn't say it's impossible to meet a girl from another country, from another culture, but I think the more likely way that it's going to happen is that they will already be in Australia. Like, they will have had some sort of calling or drive to come to Australia, much like Lucas did, for example. And we made good friends there, and we became friends there. So that's kind of, I guess, like my plan. Go back to Australia and begin searching. And this is where it's just like, how do I do that? Do I do that by increasing my surface area and becoming more integrated into groups? Do I do that by doing how I found my previous girlfriends, which is hitting the streets and going up to random girls, and if they're pretty, and talking to them? Do I do this by using the dating apps? Do I use this by doing something like, exposing myself to where I'm more likely to meet someone who's got similar values to me in terms of yoga or handstands or language learning or different cultures? I don't know. Maybe I'll have to experiment with all of them again. This is the cycle. This is what is going on. But that is certainly my goal, my aim, I suppose, when I get back to Australia. That's probably the most important priority. That, for me, actually takes over the podcast. That probably is more important than the even training, and you know how much I love training. I think that's probably the thing I need to focus on the most, and really give as much attention as I can to that. And trying to find the one, I guess. So that's my plan. Next year, I would love to be traveling again, and there might be an event which will force me to travel at the very least, and force me to travel to Europe, which was kind of in my plans in any case, because Brisbane winter it's miserable. I didn't realize how bad it was until I was here in Brazil, then I went back and I went, damn, this sucks. I don't want to be here. So I would love to not be in Australia again for next winter. I would love to travel Europe, but I think for me, traveling Europe also is, I'd want to do that with a partner. I don't really see the appeal for me of doing that solo, unless it was kind of similar to this trip and I went there purely to meet up with, Oscar Mary in England, my friend Cloud in Switzerland, that I might know like a random one-off acquaintance in Germany. Dimelix is in Germany as well. Do I know some? I'd probably be able to know friends of friends in Portugal, or Lucas's family there. I have Spain is appealing to me. It's just as a culture, but I think I'd want to do that with a girl. So that's also kind of dependent on just how the next 6 to 9 months goes. So all right, that's it. That's it. Travel plans all done. Mum all done. Problems all done. How am I going? I'm actually in a pretty good mood. This went way longer than I thought it would. I thought this would be like a 45-minute session, but there you go. I found out that I can talk when I want to. So yeah, that's it. I would love to hear from you. If you've got any thoughts, if you're any of the people that I mentioned in this, and any of those travel plans sound like they could use some updating, some improving, any ideas or suggestions, I would love to hear them. If you have connected in any case, in any way, with my story about my mum, if I've left out any links, if you can't find anything, please reach out via any of the social media platforms. We usually will see things, and if we don't and have not responded, it is not through malice. It is through potentially inattention / sometimes we just don't even see things. Sometimes they don't show up. YouTube comments go missing. Instagram comments go missing. There's all sorts of shenanigans that go on with that stuff. We really do appreciate you sending us some time, talent, or treasure to help support this podcast. So time is honestly the easiest way is just to tell a friend. Tell a friend that you enjoyed this episode. Tell a friend who's perhaps going through some woman problems and they would identify with this. Tell a friend who has perhaps lost a loved one soon and had to do a memorial service or had to do a speech. I would they might connect with this. The other way you can do that is via talent. So if you've got any suggestions for places I could go, if you've got any suggestions for a girl in Australia, in Brisbane, that would be amazing. And then finally, some treasure. We do have a PayPal link, which you can see in the show notes. And the way that we really love it is if you send in a Boostagram. A Boostagram is a support of Satoshis, aka Bitcoin, which you can do directly within your podcasting app. No need to go elsewhere unless you do not have a good one. So a good one nowadays is we've got a whole bunch of lists on the meremortalspodcast.com/support. I'll list some off right now. True Fans, Fountain, Podcast Guru, Podverse, Castomatic, CurioCaster, Breeze. These are all decent apps which you can use to help support the show, and it is very much appreciated when you do so, and we love to call it out and thank those people individually. So that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining in for this Kyrin Solosode. Next week we'll be back. We'll be talking about some monkeys. We'll be talking about some animals, and I think we're going to be talking about farm life as well, perhaps living off the grid and things like that. So tune in to next week's episode, and until then, ciao for now. Kyrin out. Bye.